Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this, the third Ordinary Council meeting for 2026. I'll commence the meeting by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Butchla people, and pay my respects to our elders, past, present, and emerging. Let us pray together. Each of us, according to our individual beliefs, grant to this council wisdom, understanding, and sincerity of purpose for the good governance of the community. Everyone's here, so there's no apologies or leave of absence. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest? Item 4, mayoral minutes. There is a mayoral minute. It would have been distributed yesterday. Supplementary agenda item 1. I'll read it out. That the proposed time closures of the Maryborough Indoor Swimming Pool for school terms 2 and 3 be discontinued, and that any future consideration of access changes take into account the interests of all users from the community, relevant legislation including but not limited to the Anti-Discrimination Act of 1991 and child safety requirements. That's a mayoral minute, so it doesn't need a seconder. Are there any speakers in favour? Councillor Truscott?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I know I can't second it, but I would if I had the ability to do so. I appreciate there's some stuff happening in the background of this, and yeah, I know that you're not trying to cause any disruption with this. I think this is good, and just we need to get some good discussion around this before any serious decision is made that could affect people. So I thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you. Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion then. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 5.1, the ordinary meeting for February, pages 4 to 14. Is there a mover that they be confirmed? Councillor Farage, seconded Councillor Byrne. Any speakers or questions? Put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 6.1, outstanding resolutions register. This is page 15 to 25. Is there a mover that receive a note? Councillor Phil Truscott, seconded Councillor Farage. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 7.1, community presentations.
Yes, Mayor, through yourself. We've had 3 this morning. Gary Haspel, who spoke to us about leasing of community assets at Glenwood. Mr. Graham Wood, who spoke to us about ongoing flooding issues, and Ms. Robin Mill-Brownlee, who presented and gave a summary of a petition for a loading bay on the esplanade between Fraser and Bedford Streets in Torquay.
Thank you. I'll move that Council note the verbal report provided by the CEO on matters raised. Is there a seconder? Councillor Farage. Were there any questions? Councillor Chapman, did you have a question?
No.
Yeah, okay. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, that Mayor, I'll take it.
Okay. Petitions. Are there any petitions? Councillor O'Keefe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am in receipt of 2 petitions. One is an updated petition relating to the Salvation Army request for parking at the front of their premises. So I'd like to just table that so that the petition be received.
Is there a seconder for that? Yep. Councillor Farage. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously.
And the second petition I have received is a request to install traffic calming measures in Millia Street between Elizabeth Street and Polgol Streets with 33 signatures on it. And I would like that the petition be received and referred to a committee or officer for consideration and a report to council.
Is there a seconder for this? Councillor Whelan. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Opposed? That's carried 10-1. Oh, sorry, that's carried 9-2. Right. Any further petitions? Informal meetings, record of matters discussed, pages 26 to 37. Is there a mover that we receive a note? Is Councillor Farage, second Councillor Govers. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.2, Water and Waste Services Advisory Meeting Minutes, pages 38 to 42. Is there a mover? Councillor Byrne, seconded Councillor O'Keefe. Any speakers or questions? Put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.3, the Fraser Coast Regional Council Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes, pages 43 to 48. Is there a mover that we receive a note? Councillor Burns, seconded Councillor Whelan. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.4, the Fraser Coast Events Advisory Committee meeting minutes for all of last year, or most of last year. Pages 49 to 60. This is moved Councillor Farage and seconded Councillor Cosgrove. Any speakers or questions? Can I ask about that? Are we able to get the minutes more frequent?
Yes, thank you through the chair. Thank you, Mayor. I've spoken to the officers that prepare the minutes, and they will be prepared in a expedited time after the meetings. So we'll be receiving them.
I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.5, the minutes of the Arts, Culture and Heritage meeting for February, pages 61 to 63. Moved Councillor Farage, seconded Councillor Govers. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.1.1, the councillor meeting attendance for April 2026, pages 64 to 65. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Farage, seconded Councillor Sanderson. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried. 10.1. Item 11.2.1, review of the position of Deputy Mayor, pages 66 to 68. Is there anyone moving a specific motion? Councillor Truscott?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd move option 3.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Chapman? Do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, briefly, yes. In moving this one, this is in no reflection on our current Deputy Mayor, Councillor Deputy Mayor Farage. I think you've done a great job. Thank you for that. I've just always been of the opinion that we transfer the role and give people a go. It's a chance for trying new experiences in this role. It's something that you don't really get to do in our position. So I think it's a good opportunity for that, something I've supported throughout my time on council. So happy to continue doing that and thank you to Councillor Farage.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll just mention, Councillor Farage can run again too at the next meeting, but I do want to say that, so I don't want to sound like I'm eulogizing her when she could continue as the Deputy Mayor, but I've been, Councillor Farage has really done a stellar job as Deputy Mayor. She certainly does a lot more in the role than I did when I was Deputy Mayor. And I rely on her to a great deal in meetings like this and events and a wide range of things. Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.2, the annual review of delegations from council to the chief executive officer. This is pages 69 to 77, and must be a lot bigger than that in the attachments. Yeah. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Farage. Is there a seconder? Councillor Govers. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.3, the amended policy, community presentations to councillors, pages 78 to 95. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Phil Truscott, seconded Councillor Paul Truscott. Any speakers or questions? Councillor Truscott.
Look, this is an interesting one to speak on, and I sort of feel it's come about in a result of no action that I took that was blamed for. And as we're well aware, a member of the public put forward a complaint to the Human Rights Commission of something that didn't happen, and got given a year and a half's time for that, and hefty expense to the council in legal fees and staff time, which is just a ridiculous waste of resources. And it's, I would support a change in the policy, and I think these changes are good. I'm okay with that. I just think it's wrong that it's come about from what is effectively a toothless tiger body that that forced it upon us to do so. We would have been doing it ourselves anyway, but I think it's just unfortunate that the circumstances and how it came about. But I thank the staff for their time and their patience in this process, because they've done a great job in dealing with a situation that should never have happened. And I think that this gives us a bit more strength in trying to mitigate those situations from hopefully happening again. And I understand that the policy does have some provision to acknowledge for speakers when they are then to come forward that they acknowledge the conditions, which should a similar situation ever happen again, we'll have at least a little bit more protection, hopefully. I haven't seen a template of it, but I understand that it's to be in there. And I suppose if I can get some sort of confirmation of that in this meeting, so at least that's on record, that would be great. I don't know. CEO?
Yeah. Yes, we are in the process of preparing a fact sheet of sorts that we've spoken about previously.
Well, not necessarily a fact sheet, sorry. Something that the person speaking will sign.
Yes. A part of that is that they will be acknowledging that they understand the provisions in the policy and the expectations of them.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. And so on that account, I'm happy to support this.
Councillor Chapman?
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. I actually will be supporting this motion also. I just think it's great that the community have got the chance to come along to council and have some guidelines of how to speak and everything like that. Many years ago, I come along to several council meetings to see how council were being run and everything like that. And I can say that today we get it pretty good, because back then it was pretty volatile, some of the public speaking. But I really think that if we give the community a chance and have good guidelines on, and I love hearing what different people have got, because they put a lot of time effort into writing a speech, thinking about a speech. I was watching a gentleman here talk today, and he was very nervous. His hands were shaking to get up and speak to the council, but it was great just to hear what he had to say. So I just really, I encourage to listen to the community and let them have their say. Thank you.
Councillor Byrne?
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'll be supporting this policy as well, especially with the inclusion of a fact sheet that will be available on our webpage. Also highlighting ways that members of the public can get in contact with us, and note that the community presentations is not the only avenue for members of the public to contact us. We all have phone numbers and email addresses out there. So I think this is just another step forward in giving as much transparent information as we can to the public about how they can contact us. So I'll be supporting this motion.
Can I, any further speakers or questions? Can I just ask, so if I got it, so 88's the new, page 88's the new policy. All right, saying that? Yeah, and so the dates in terms of last approved, we'll put today's date, and then what will the review date be? Will we give it 3 years again? Yeah. 4, yeah. Because at the moment it still talks, yeah, the actual policy that's in the agenda that talks about 2020 has the old dates.
21 and 24.
Current dates.
Yeah.
They get replaced.
But in terms, but we got the draft policy here and it's got the current dates in it. So we will we'll put in a new policy to be reviewed in 4 years.
Yeah, through the chair, the last approved date is the last date that this policy was approved. So that will be replaced once this policy is approved.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that when looking at the marked up old policy, just not when I'm looking at the new policy.
New draft policy.
Yeah. Yeah.
the Chair, I believe that what they're waiting for is for it to be endorsed today and then it will change, rather than putting that in as a, it would assume, make an assumption that it is going to be passed. We didn't want to do that.
And just another question, in terms of, and I mentioned this on Monday, in terms of it, the policy referring to verbal only and the report referring to verbal only, can you walk us through what would happen, somebody contacts us, if somebody reads it and they say, well, I can't do that?
Is that through the chair? The team would actually have a discussion with them about how they could facilitate the presentation in a different manner. So, you know, if someone said, look, I can't verbally do it, but I can record it, or I can have someone speak on my behalf with me, that sort of stuff. So the team is open to exploring those avenues with the person. So
because I mean, there is the disability aspect of it. We could have somebody who, but also I just don't, it's pretty scary. I mean, we don't expect people to have done years of Toastmasters training. Like, there should also be some avenue for people who pretty in a normal, natural, scheme of things wouldn't want to do it. There should be some allowance. I mean, I'll speak briefly for the policy. This is a very important policy, and it's important that we get it right. Long ago, before I was elected to council, I used to come into this room and stand at that lectern and make presentations. It's an important part of public life, of citizens being able to come in and address the council on a wide range of issues, and we need to get it right. I think, perhaps we should review it for 4 years. If something's not working, if it isn't, allowing people to have their say, we should review it earlier. But I think this is a good step, and we continue to refine it. Yeah, Councillor Brennan?
Sorry, thank you, through the mayor. It's my understanding we can bring policies to be reviewed at any time anyway if we find that this isn't working
Yeah, we can amend the
adequately,
policy.
is that correct?
Yeah, we can amend the policy anytime.
Yeah, excellent, okay, good to know, thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.4, proposed amendment of subordinate law number 5, parking, pages 96 to 151. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Farage, is there a seconder? Councillor O'Keefe, any speakers or questions? Councillor Truscott?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I can follow up on the question I asked at the agenda forum about a couple of items, specifically the main one being pages 126 and 127. If I may ask the meeting secretary, it may help if we can actually get those pictures up on the screen, or unless if someone has. In the request for further information, we got back and said that there will be a clarified position and updated map, if required, will be provided at the meeting. So I'm not sure if there is that, or otherwise I can show you on the map.
Director, do you have the updated maps too?
I don't have the updated map, I'm very sorry. Sorry, through the chair. When we looked at the map,
I can show you on here. So, so this is page 126. This is what's getting omitted. So currently, this is City Hall here. There's the parking up the side here, and then it goes sort of around here. And this bit is council's car park. But then if you can scroll up to the page 127 to show what is proposed. So it's doing this, which is, that's fine. So this bit here, because that's a private car park, but this here should still be this shaded part, because that is council's car park that we control. So that part is what should be shaded, is what I'm saying.
if I could respond to that.
So the director can respond.
So Richard Ramsey Place is a road reserve, so it's already governed under the road parking regulations. So this is about looking at what our private areas are that we need to actually implement the local law for. So Richard Ramsey Place is actually a road reserve. So it's already designated, so it doesn't need to be included in this map. The confusion, I think that still is, we need to overlay the property maps over the top of this to have a look about the 4 private parkings, which sits around the corner, which we need to just clarify.
So in this bit here?
Yes, that little
so
piece in there.
They're the private ones, we know those ones are LJ Hooker. But so these ones, we say we don't need to do those ones because that's part of a.
That's part of the road reserve, yes.
So it doesn't, okay, all right.
So it's regulated under that side of the legislation, so we don't need to include that. In essence, if the old map had included that, when Richard Ramsey Place was designated as a road, like, I'm not sure, but in essence, the old map looks like it may have been incorrect.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, on that advice, thank you.
So, the effect of shading all that is that it is, can you just, like say, for example, on the other side of the road, behind School of Arts, that's sort of taking it out of.
Now that's a designated,
That's making it.
declared off-street parking still, so behind School of Arts.
So just
But it's not for the public though necessarily, like these parks.
The public should not be parking there, that's why we're regulating.
that's why we've got it shaded, is because it's not for parking.
Yes.
But then we have the same, my concern is around I suppose the consistency of it then, because if we look at a different one like the Alan Jim Brown car park, that is for parking for the public, but it's all designated. Like it looks the same as this, if that makes sense.
Yes, but it's not a road reserve within there, that's actually parking.
It's in this because it is regulated parking and the map shows that we have the ability to regulate the parking there, hence make it a public car park or not.
Okay, can we just compare, so can we go to map 116? Now, what does that mean? Because that is a parking lot. That's the parking lot in front of the band hall.
Yeah.
So why is that shaded like the parking, which is not parking for the public?
Like at Richard
Because
Ramsey.
we need to be able to regulate the parking and manage it. So if it's a 2-hour parking bay or a 4-hour parking bay, or it could be all-day parking, but it allows us to then regulate that.
Okay, so the regulation is another layer. So in this case, it's that zone and we regulate it 2 hours. In the case of City Hall, it's that zone and we regulate you can't park here.
That's right.
Unless
Except-
signed.
Except for the road reserve, the actual bit where you drive in, because that is.
That is a road reserve, that is regulated. I can't remember the legislation, sorry, but it's regulated.
Toro. I remember that one, okay, I think you mentioned that, yeah, okay. And then the other one I was trying to get my head around is on page 121, which was the airport, the Maryborough Airport, and Harvey Bay Airport is similarly shaded, and I understand the response is that the entire area is mapped to assist in future expansion if required and to manage emergent issues. And I'm trying to understand that because I'm looking at that going, but you just can't, like,
Yeah, so it's-
so I'm trying to get you, yeah, there's some of that's a soccer field, some of that's an RV car park, some of it's like an overnight stay, there's community things, I'm going, a lot of that's not car parking, can't car park, some of it's a runway, you can't park there. I just don't, look, forgive me if I'm wrong, I just don't understand why we consider it. I can't imagine it's a road reserve, but
So, thank you. I may be able to respond a little bit to this. Thank you, councillor, and through the chair. From what I understand, is the entire Maryborough Airport is classified as on-street parking at the moment.
whole site.
The whole site. So what this is doing, the whole thing, we're declaring this as off-street parking to enable us to then regulate the appropriate components of the airport for designated parking.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same for the Harvey Bay Airport.
If it's
It's in here
If
as
it's
well.
declared like this, then yes, that's the same. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You won't
Rules
be
is
parking
rules,
on the
Macca.
runway,
So this go out to consultation, and so like organizations like the Harvey Bay Neighborhood Centre will be able to respond to, for example, the Rankin Treehouse proposal, that kind of thing. Yeah. Councillor Chapman?
Mr Mayor, I was looking through this document here and I've got concerns when, with talking about off-street parking and things, especially around our boat ramps and especially around holiday time, where our boat ramps are very inadequate for car parking around them when we get a lot like Easter and Christmas. And I just wonder, is there room to move a motion or something for leniency around those times around our boat ramps? Because when we can't offer the facilities and people come here to holiday and want to be able to go out and do boating and enjoy the area and then pick up a fine for parking on a vacant block of land where they shouldn't be parking, I find it very tough because and I just wonder, is there ways that we can do a leniency thing on those areas? It will have to be a future motion or something like that. Because this document's all about control, about parking controls. And the last thing I want to see is people come to the area, can't find a designated car park on the street or in the boat ramp. I looked at last Christmas and I drove around and they were all over the vacant block of area down on the corner of the Esplanade and Boat Harbour Drive. There was people parked there. They would have had to park 100 metres away to walk back to get in their boat to go off and then walk 100 metres because there was no other car parks. Now,
Yeah, I mean, then you get a lot of this parking's for safety reasons. What if a child gets hit walking on the road because everybody's parked on the road reserve? You have to look at why we have.
It's just a question I've got, and just even ask the CEO if is there a way that we can bring in leniency there for that? Because if we've got to get them to park along the side of the street, some of these people will end up if that's the case, they'll have to be notified that they can't park in these areas. There have to be signs up to say no parking. But some of these people will have to probably walk 200 metres with their boats. So their boats will sit around the boat ramp for the distance that they can walk 200 metres. And some of these people that are going out boating aren't young people. And I'm just looking for leniency. How can we do something like that?
Through the chair, I would need to review how the policy is currently structured and whether we actually have the leniency provided in that. If that is the case, then there is a possibility for us to do that. It would be a further conversation with all of you around the implications of doing something like that.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have that leniency already built in, then we would have to bring it back here for that to be the case.
Okay, so it's just an observation and a question I wanted to have because this is a holiday destination and this was just a concern that I have about parking. Thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion then. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Next item is 11.2.5, proposed amendment of local law number 2, animal management, and subordinate local law number 2, animal management, pages 152 to 212. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Paul Truscott, is there a seconder? Councillor Chapman, any speakers or questions? Councillor Truscott?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a question that I raised on Monday. This is page 169 in the poultry section. And the reason I'm particular about poultry, which I don't want to be, is because it is one that I do get asked about from residents regularly if they have chickens and roosters and all sorts that seem to upset the neighbourhood. So I'm glad the roosters issue has been sorted over the years. But yeah, particularly just to try and really clarify what it means in section 4 of poultry, where each items A, B and C mention one or more birds to which this item 3 applies on property. I don't know what item 3 means.
Through the chair, it's actually an error and it should refer to item 4, as in this item 4 that it's talking about.
Okay.
So that does seem to be an error in there that will need to be corrected.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, that makes a bit more sense. So thank you for that. And hopefully people don't go crazy. So I assume when we pass this then, because it's changing even just a number in this, do we need to make a notice for this to resolve to propose to make, to go to the public? Do we need to note that that item number be changed? Otherwise, does it go out as is?
No, sorry, through the chair, we wouldn't put it out as is, no. With the support of council, we would make that as a minor administrative change.
Sure.
What's being put forward to you today.
Yep. Okay, thank you for that. And I appreciate the response that I also received about page 173 about unreasonable nuisance. And I mean, it's very difficult to define that because that's going to be different for everybody. That's my questions, Mr. Mayor.
Any further speakers or questions? Yeah, Councillor Cosgrove?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I ask, in relation to the request for further information document that came through on this one, Mr. Mayor, not proposing to add that, it's called additional motion in that document, but additional point to this, you're not going to do that?
What was the...
In regards to the petition on this matter, on the day. Just, and how this relates to the,
Well, are the mover and seconder happy for that to be included? Councillor Chapman, are you happy for that to be included?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry, not to...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. Good pick up.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion then. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.6, proposed amendment of local laws, commercial vending activities on Gari, pages 213 to 375. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Whelan. Seconder, Councillor Farage. Any speakers or questions? Councillor Whelan.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank staff for the pickup on this one. It's a very delicate environment and I think this would just cause further traffic over there. I think this would become quite problematic actually. So thank you staff for picking it up, for strengthening the laws. It's a very delicate environment over there and as far as the businesses go, they rely a lot on the seasonal tourism. So adding business, they could just drive on and drive off whenever they feel like might have been quite damaging. So just wanted to thank the staff and appreciate your work.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.7, investigation of Kauri Pine as arboreal emblem, pages 376 to 381. Is there a mover? Councillor Chapman? Sorry. Second, Councillor Farage. Do you wish to speak to this, Councillor Chapman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and councillors. I support the recommendation of adopt the Kauri Pine, the Agathis robusta, as the Fraser Coast arboreal emblem. This is a sensible and balanced proposal that recognises the tree deeply connected to our region through our Butchulla people, our natural environment, and our strong timber and industry history. It's also important to acknowledge the work of the late Peter Oles, who was a strong advocate for this recognition. Peter used Kauri Pine timber in the restoration of the Mary Ann steam train seats, which runs in Queen's Park, further linking this species to our local history and identifying as the Mary Ann was used to haul Kauri Pine timber to numerous mills in Maryborough. The symbolic approach is the right one. It allows us to formally recognise the Kauri Pine without adding cost pressures and complications to council's branding. This is about acknowledging who we are as a region in particular, respecting and sustainability way. Thank you all for the opportunity. And I'd like to say that the Kauri Pine actually goes back to the era of the Jurassic era. It is so, and this Agathis robustus, which is the Kauri Pine behind the mayor, as you see there, is is one of many species, but that one is very particular for growing in this region. And it can get to a tree of around about 600 across in the diameter in around about 16 years. So, councillors, I'd like to recommend this for support today as the Carry Pine for the Fraser Coast and Boreal emblem. Thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? Thanks, Councillor Chapman. And Councillor Chapman, I think you brought in a couple of examples.
Yes.
So yeah, I want to thank you for that. This is, yeah, as you said, something that Peter Rolls raised a number of times, and it is out of his advocacy and his passion and his commitment that it's come to this stage. He was a remarkable man, the smartest man I ever met, really passionate, really genuine guy. I spent a lot of time on his front veranda talking about things like Carry Pines and the Marianne and the history and how timber is such a vital link with our history. It's, you know, why we had, you know, a major port to begin with, why the Marianne was built, why it really, you know, set about our industrial progression. It's very appropriate that we have an arboreal emblem that represents this region, and I don't think there's one that's more fitting than a Carry Pine. Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, just on that point, is there still planning this afternoon at 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock at Brendan Hanson Park.
At Brendan Hanson?
Yeah, it can happen now. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
11.2.8, exemption under section 235B, local government regulation 2012 for Sentinel-1 endpoint management and security. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Farage, is there a seconder? Councillor O'Keefe, any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.9, monthly financial report. This is pages 385 to 396. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Truscott, is there a seconder? Councillor Chapman, any speakers or questions? Councillor Wheeland?
Yeah, look, I circulated an email to everybody about an item for general business, but decided that I'd like to propose an alternate motion for this motion, which would just simply have a part 2 that says schedules an urgent briefing with councillors to discuss the operational impacts on the fuel price crisis, and how that's affecting operations, financial outlook and plans to adapt as this continues. So I'm sure you can word it better than that, but just something like that. And the reason I would propose this is that the prices are up almost 100%. I went to get a coffee at one of our local...
Can I just check first, is that acceptable to the mover and seconder?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Absolutely. Councillor Chapman? Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair again, and looked at it's $3.03 litres. So $3.03 a litre for diesel at one of our cheapest servos. It's consistently one of the cheapest in town. So I'll just like to ask a couple of questions as well, if that's okay. To our Director of Infrastructure, you manage the fleets and the trucks and all the heavy machinery of the council generally, or you would. How many litres in one of those trucks when they fill up?
Through the chair, it varies depending on the size of the truck. You know, it could vary anything between 120 litres to 250 litres in some of the trucks. So yeah, it varies. You know, smaller trucks, smaller size tanks. Yeah.
And I will wait for the briefing if we adopt this for most of my questions. But I just want to know how are they impacting on all the directors' budgets? And are we looking for efficiencies in the way of people movements and equipment movements and things like that? It's got to be impacting, especially.
Through the chair, I mean, from our director's perspective, yeah, there's definitely an impact on the budget, bottom line, and you know, we are trying to manage through having staff pull in one vehicle to go to job sites rather than driving individual trucks. So there's various ways we are looking at it, but it is becoming difficult to manage the impact of that, the fuel impact is a direct impact, but there's also other supply chain impact that is flowing through from our contractors, our suppliers. So yeah, by the time, the fuel may be 20% or 10% increase, but the flow on impact could be 20-30% on our project. So a lot of the contractors are coming to us and seeking some sort of relief on fuel impact. And we've been talking with our state government as well, main roads particularly, to see how they are managing that flow on impacts. So so we're working through the process, and so we'll probably come back to council at a later date to see how we can manage it.
So simply, it's not just our vehicles and fuel use that's impacted, it's contractors that are doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Supplies and,
Well, I'll leave it at that. That's the motion I'd like to put forward.
Yeah, that's, the change has been accepted by the mover and the seconder. Yep. Are there any further speakers or questions? Councillor Chapman?
Mr Mayor, I'd actually like to speak on this. It's just, I'd like to actually thank our finance staff for putting these documents together after doing the QTC and looking at how figures work about year ending to date and everything like that. Gives you a bit more of an understanding and the amount of money that this finance group members of here working for our community. It's big numbers and it's a lot of work, and I'd just like to thank them for their work. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Farage?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question to the CEO. Could we potentially put this in our 1st of April briefing, seeing as we're scheduled to finish at 1:55 and we can usually go to 2:30?
Through the chair, yes, that would have been my intention to see if we could do that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Cosgrove?
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'll speak in favour of this motion. I think at the moment, sort of within the media cycle, when I choose to pay attention to that, this is kind of being seen as a sort of short-term crisis, but not to be pessimistic. I think that I heard the first flag this morning on the radio news that the Treasurer starting to sort of preempt that this could be as bad as the GFC or COVID. And look, I think probably it's going to get to that territory, unfortunately. It's clear that the nation has been caught flat-footed on this, but we need to make sure that we're not. I saw another article about how this will impact things like basically everything we do. It was about waste operations, those trucks operate on diesel. All the plant and equipment at our depots pretty much operates on diesel. Every bit of heavy machinery is based on diesel, and this goes far above our level of politics or pay grade, but we need to make sure that the community's struggling. The cost of living is already ridiculous, and when you're paying $20 for a block of cheese, what is it going to be, 40 soon? People just can't absorb this. So we need to be preemptively thinking now about how we're going to deal with this in a budgetary sense, because I think it's going to start to flow through. It's not really in this monthly financial report, but come next month, all that use of diesel impacts everything that council does. So we need to be thinking about this yesterday, because I think, as I said, this is going to develop to a point where it will be, this is a flash in the pan crisis and diesel's going to go back to $2 tomorrow. I don't think it is. So we need to take this really seriously for our lane. We can't fix the global or national ructions on this, but we need to be very on the front foot as much as possible to ensure that we're adapting our operations wherever we can, while still struggling to deliver the vital infrastructure and services that council provides. So sorry to be somewhat pessimistic, but I do think this is a good flag to run up and say we need to be talking about this now, and coming up with a plan on our end to try to adapt as much as we can.
I've got a question for the director. I see on the chart at the bottom of 391 that the operating result is 15 $14 million or so better than budgeted. And then on page 388, that's what it comes out as, 16.2 million current, whereas budgeted 57,000. And is that mostly materials and services being 10 million less than budgeted at this stage? For such a difference in the operating result? And why is that? Why are we $10 million less in materials and services? Is it just a bill's gonna come in next week that'll make that all up?
Through the chair, I think generally there's some lags that are still happening with some of the expenses coming through, but the materials and services, there's multitude areas that are below budget. So when you put them all together, it comes to a very large number.
That's the big one, that's the $10 million one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but like it's coming from
Different
fleet,
areas, yeah.
infrastructure delivery, waste contracts, so there's a whole raft of areas that are under budget, but as I said, they are all then.
Are we anticipating to keep that, or at the end of the year?
I would certainly, just the discussion we've just had about the fuel pricing, I think we're going to be more so looking at, are we going to overspend that by the end of the financial year? We have done some early modelling on some of the fuel changes, price changes, and there are some really large impacts, particularly when we get into the contract space. Our own fuel obviously is something that we can manage and try to work through, but that's probably the lower end of the impacts that we're going to get hit with. So I think we'll see a lot more changes in that materials and services space, and I'm actually more concerned that we will go the other way, so we need to manage that really closely.
So looking at the graph on page 391, you're expecting that peak to be much lower going into March?
I would suspect yes.
Any further speakers or questions? Wait for Paul's back in. I'll put the motion then, all in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.3.1, proposed animal desexing incentive month. Councillor Byrne.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor, I have an alternate motion. I believe the meeting secretary has it on the screen there. It's pretty much.
I'll just get a seconder, Councillor Paul.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. Councillor Byrne.
Sorry, the alternate motion I propose, the meeting secretary has put it on the screen there. It's basically to remove the words eligible concession card and change that to concession card holders and change that to eligible pet owners in both point 1 and point 2. So that would mean that everybody, everybody would have the benefit of the $200 discount for dogs and rebate for dogs and the $100 rebate for cats. So still maintaining the same intent of the motion, but for all community members, not only concession card holders.
Yep.
And upon the briefing note that we received or the request for further information, we do have that allowance in our budget to date, noting the discussion we've just had on fuel. I think it's wonderful that if we can do that.
Through you, Mr Chair, councillors, I might advise that you remove under policy, because under the policy it is for concession card holders, so to enable us to enact it, if we just remove the words under policy CP 085, so we'll be able to enact that.
I'm happy with that. Is the seconder happy with that? Yeah. Thank you.
If we take out the reference to the policy, what do you take to mean by eligible then?
Live in the Fraser Coast.
Through your chair, anyone who is a resident of the Fraser Coast.
Okay. So what would stop somebody from Gympie applying for it?
So would you feel happy, Mr Mayor, if we added the words eligible Fraser Coast?
Yeah, well, just Fraser Coast residents, yeah, eligible brings in a thing that's not defined.
So just put Fraser Coast residents, remove the word eligible?
We should say the pet also lives on the Fraser Coast.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want somebody, I don't know, maybe it is good that we dog in Perth needs to be desexed too.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, anything to make.
Okay, so this, what if somebody living in Harbour Bay puts in an invoice for a dog at their second home in Brisbane?
Residents,
Yeah, but-
REDENTS, sorry, yeah,
Or do we need to say
and their
that?
pets.
And then,
Well, it says Fraser Coast residents and pets.
If you want to be very specific and ensure that we are able to do that, then yes, the resolution needs to be very clear that we're talking about Fraser Coast residents and pets that reside here in Fraser Coast.
So I guess what if we had at the end for a dog normally residing on the Fraser Coast?
Registered.
Yeah, well then we have to do something for a cat, well the cat would be
All
normally,
of the animals are normally,
well, this might help get them registered.
yeah, some of these won't be registered yet.
No, I mean, dogs are registered for the Fraser
Some of them
Coast,
won't
cats aren't.
apply for this, yeah.
Tammy, do you have any?
That's, we're able to act on that.
Okay, so in that case, if I had a dog that was living in a second home in Gympie and I applied for the incentive, so I live on the Fraser Coast, the dog's down there, would I get money?
We don't ask for a residence certificate from a dog, but I think, from a common sense perspective, I think we'd just look at it as in terms of the resident, because that dog could obviously come into the area as well.
Another animal was desexed at a facility in the Fraser Coast, or?
I don't think we can do that. Yeah, we won't be able to. Would that be some sort of discriminatory thing? No, but in terms of,
You could be
Like,
supporting local vets in
say,
that way, you
yeah.
could say that, and there's more
so
than
it's
one.
got to be, I imagine there has to be some sort of cooperative approach. Councillor Rowe?
Just a question to the director, is that clear enough for the officers to act upon the intent of the motion? Because the intent is clear, the intent is that you should be a resident of the Fraser Coast who owns a dog here, who resides here, and is going to have it desexed.
Yeah, I think we could say for owners and pets that reside in the region, reside or are residents in the region, just to be 100% clear, but I'm comfortable in our ability to enforce that.
Yeah, I think the change to the wording, what you just said, makes more, like it grammatically, I don't think that reads correct.
Resident instead of residents, so the resident.
Yeah.
Residents and pet owners who reside on the Fraser Coast.
Pet owners who reside on the Fraser Coast. Wow, that got bigger than I planned, by the way.
So let's just finish this.
Reside. So they can live here and they can go away on holiday somewhere else, but they live here and they pay for their dogs here and look after their dogs here.
Yes, you want to take out the word owner.
Principal place of residence. Make it more worthy.
I've got a way around that one.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, let's hear it.
Well, the way around it is, forget about reside, just if their dog is actually registered here, then they do it, because you can look that up straight away.
To be fair, some dogs aren't desexed until they're registered.
Well, cats aren't, but I'm talking about dogs.
Some dogs aren't.
Cats, who knows what's going to happen there. But dogs, you could easily look it up, that means a lot less work for the officers.
Councillor Truscott, this might help people to register their dog. They might go, oh, if I desex my dog, now register it because it's cheaper.
True. But I'm thinking that people will pick it up an easy $200, that's all.
Are you happy with that?
And the intent be acted on, that's the key.
Are you happy with that intent that Executive Director?
Yes, Councillor.
Okay, are you
happy with the wording?
Oh, look, as long as the staff are, I think, I don't know if
We can
English
get-
reads well, but.
And, I mean, just, so so the discount is for June only, it's not that they have to live here during June.
No, it's only for the month of June.
Yeah.
So the certificate has to have.
Can we put a comma between Fraser Coast and during?
Yes.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Okay, that's good. You approve of that comma?
I appreciate the comment.
Okay, any further speakers or questions?
I'll just briefly say, yeah, look, being involved in the particularly, well, we only have dog registration over many years now. I appreciate the staff's involvement in years gone by of trying to get it as low as possible that we could for registration. And in doing so, the condition was that you had to have a dog that was desexed and microchipped. And so we know, according to census data, that there are people out there with dogs that are not registered. And so hopefully an incentive like this that comes around, if it's open to the whole public, that hopefully, as I mentioned before, that people might go, oh, well, look, if there's an incentive, I'll get my dog desexed. It's probably already microchipped, and then they can get it registered and get that first year free registration, so they can score pretty well out of doing this. So I encourage people, anyone that's listening or in the follow-up media from this, get your dog desexed and do the right thing.
Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Byrne?
Thank you. Clearly the intent behind the motion is to make desexing more accessible for all pet owners during June, of course, which is a proactive approach to responsible pet care. We really do want to encourage as many animals as we can to be desexed. The positive actions that would benefit animal welfare and the broader community are, to me, fairly clear from this motion. And this adjustment just reflects our current household challenges too along Fraser Coast, and our commitment to creating a safer and healthy environment for both people and our pets. Unfortunately, we've had some aggressive dog attacks and those animals haven't been registered. So as to my colleagues' reference there, it does encourage people to get their dogs registered. Our shelters and animal welfare groups have been inundated with strays and dumped animals, and this is just a small way that our community can take a positive step forward in assisting with that. So thank you.
Yes, we have a lot of really amazing animal welfare organisations and wildlife organisations that are dealing with the effect of feral cats particularly. And I'm very, very, very proud of these different organisations and our staff at the Fraser Coast Adoption Centre who are doing a great job in getting homes for these dogs and cats, because more dogs and cats are being born than there are homes for. And this feeds into that. This is part of a wider attempt to reduce the amount of homeless dogs and cats. Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. On to the next one, yeah. Next one, 11.3.2, projects for submission, residential activation fund round 2. This moved Councillor Farage, seconded Councillor Cosgrove. Any speakers? Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Before I speak on the matter, I just wanted to note that in the officer's recommendation, it says round 2 of the federal government's residential activation fund program, but it's actually a state government program.
Is that acceptable? Seconder?
Yes.
And yeah, I would like to speak on this. I just really thank the staff for putting this submission together. We were quite successful in round 1 of the Residential Activation Fund program. Both myself and Councillor Gobers met with the Deputy Premier and did media on round 1. And I really hope that we can get this water grid and the sewage treatment plant upgrade projects happening, because I think they are vital to not only the current population in terms of water, but also the future projections that we have, especially in the Nikenbar-Dundarran growth investigation area, where we could see, up to 14,000 new lots unlocked, I believe the number was. And so, in order to achieve that, we need to have this water grid done. So really hopeful that we get the funding for this, because I think it needs to be all 3 levels of government pitching in to get this done. We are one of the fastest growing regions in Queensland, and I think it's time that that was recognised by government rather than looking at the old census data, which absolutely doesn't reflect that. Be really interested to see what the census this year looks like and how our community continues to adapt to change and to grow. So yeah, really thankful for all the hours of hard work that have gone into this and hoping for a good outcome. Thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is a very important application and one that I hope is hugely successful. It's something that I consider. You consider, in fact, a lot of different things. Once you step into this role, you start looking at the height of grass in parks, for example. But something that I kind of think about is, what do we get for our tax dollar? What do we get for our rates? What do we get for our federal income tax? And I think something that is constantly forgotten, but is a modern miracle of the first world, is I can walk to the tap in my house, put a glass under it, water comes out and I can drink it. That is like incredible, but it doesn't happen by accident, and it doesn't happen without continuing investment, particularly when you're talking about growth. Also the fact that, there's not sewage running down the streets, you flush the toilet, it goes somewhere, it's treated and processed. Another miracle of the first world, but once again has a price tag. We're applying for $200 million of projects here, 100 million each roughly, and they're vital. And without them, the housing agenda that the state government wants to see, and the reason they have this program, I don't think can go ahead in the way that they would want it to if we don't get support on projects like these. Water security is vital, sewage treatment is absolutely vital. It may be things that we don't think about a lot and take for granted, but, we're talking about livability in this job a lot. You lose those two things, there's no livability. So these are just really, really important projects. If the structure planning we are doing at Dundara and Craignish and the Nikenbar, potential growth fronts, if that's to be looked at being realised, it cannot happen without these two upgrades. So, really looking forward to a positive outcome and working with the state on these two vital projects. Commend the officers for all the work that they've done on putting these applications together, and here's hoping to a successful outcome.
Councillor Byrne?
Thank you, through the Mayor. Only to echo the sentiments of my colleagues, these water projects, there wouldn't be a single one of us in the room here that doesn't go out and speak to the public, that doesn't get asked. It's front of mind for all of our residents, the water security, all of our infrastructure security. So the water grid project and the sewage treatment plants, all of our water projects, they're expensive, they're big money. That's just not something that a ratepayer can. It's just not possible for us to do this. So these projects being put forward are vital to the growth of our region. Simple math is saying that, our Teddington Weir plant has really, really good supply but nowhere to store it. Our Lenthals Dam has plenty of storage and yet poor supply. So it makes sense to join the two together for the future of our Fraser Coast growth. And, it's not slowing down anytime soon. And to draw attention to Councillor Farage's fact that the data is so out of date, we need these projects to go ahead, and they've been a huge body of work. It's taken years to get to this stage. It's not something that just popped up overnight. The community deserves to have this problem not disappear, but to be brought to the forefront. And I just think it's a great opportunity for us. I'm really hoping that we get this funding to move forward with these projects. Thank you.
Any further speakers? Councillor Chapman?
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. I'd like to speak for this motion also. The water grid between Maryborough and Harvey Bay, it's not Harvey Bay taking Maryborough's water or anything like that. It's a system that can be used for both areas. If something happens in Maryborough, water can be pumped back towards Maryborough system. The water that will be in this pipe will be treated water. So it'll come from the treatment plant, it'll come from the water reservoir from Bell Hilltop, and it'll go out to, out at, where's the place there? Begowan, sorry, I couldn't think of Begowan, but the Begowan water treatment plant. So this is a system of setting up that we actually look after the water supply for the whole regions. And I think it's a must, and I'm quite agreeable on it. Thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Whelan?
Yeah, I'll be brief. I often hear from the residents in the region that with all these new houses, we should be flush with cash with all the new rates. But this shows clearly that the $200 million of growth-related projects that we can't just fund ourselves through rates and development contributions, infrastructure contributions. So I just want to thank staff as well, as we all have, having these projects ready to rock and roll and putting them forward. And without these sort of programs, we can't really move forward and grow the way we need to be growing, so especially for housing. So thank you.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.5.1, tender award, bridge renewal package, 4th and Imbler Road and Yarra Road.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
You're moving? You want? Okay, yeah. Moving, Councillor Byrne, seconded Councillor Cosgrove. Assumed it's in your division.
It is
Sounds
in
like it's in
mine.
your division.
Thank you. Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah. Any speakers or questions? Yeah, Councillor Byrne.
Only just to say how pleased I am to see this come up on our agenda and how excited I think the residents will be to see this go ahead. Our roads in some of our rural areas are well over 100 years, our bridges, and some of them are well over 100 years old. And they've done well, they've served the test of time, but it's time to upgrade some infrastructure out there. So I think this is going to be great.
Any further speakers or questions? Put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 12.1, request to write to the Minister for Transport and Main Roads seeking a comprehensive review and investment in Fraser Coast bus services. Moved Councillor Chapman, seconded Councillor Whelan. Do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor and Councillors, the Fraser Coast is growing rapidly with around 60 new residents each week coming to the area, and the population is set to exceed 140,000 in the upcoming decades. With that growth comes the responsibility to ensure our public transport catches up with this community. We have suburbs in many areas with no connectivity with a bus service. Our bus network hasn't had a comprehensive review in nearly 20 years. In that time, our population has exceeded an age with a medium age of around 51, meaning more people rely on accessibility and reliable transport to stay connected to essential services in daily life. We're already seeing clear gaps in services, particularly in outer areas, leaving many residents, especially those without cars who cannot drive, at a disadvantage when it comes to work, healthcare and community participation. While other regions like Gympie have had a review, it's disappointing that no funding has been allocated for the Fraser Coast. This motion is about fairness, ensuring our region is properly considered and supported. And improved bus networks is about more than just transport. It's about connecting, inclusion and making sure no one is left behind as our region grows. Thank you all.
Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Farage.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Chapman, for bringing this to the table. I think it's really important. I know so many people out in the community that are affected by this, and I can't believe that it's been so long since we had a review. If it has been 20 years since we've had a review, that would have been when I was 4 years old. Just to put that into a perspective, that is way too long for a region growing as fast as we are to not have had a review. And I think there's a few things that, you know, by lack of bus services, for example, a lot of our schools, state and private, now have their own buses that operate just to try and get students to and from school, let alone, you know, to and from sporting events and excursions and activities, which, you know, it is another cost on them. I know many parents that have to take time off work or work less hours to be able to pick their children up from school and drop them off because we do not have adequate bus services, which means more cars on roads, which we are obviously trying to avoid as we look at the environmental climate of our world and of our community, but also that is a disadvantage for them because that means less income. So yeah, this really does have a flow-on effect, as Councillor Chapman suggested, in terms of isolation, people living in our outer communities, people that might not want to have a licence for whatever reason or might not be able to afford a car. We have 50-cent fares across the state, which the government has now made permanent, which is fantastic, but not fantastic when you can't access them. So I really hope that we get a positive response from the Minister and Transport and Main Roads, and we actually get a review that is efficient, not one that takes 6 years, as I believe the one in Gympie did, and that it comes with a backing of funding, and especially as we're growing too, and I mentioned the Nikenbar-Dundarran Growth Investigation Area before, we can't let development continue without things such as public transport, connectivity, footpaths, etc. So yeah, I would be really hesitant to, continue down this road of future planning if we don't have things such as public transport available for the residents moving in there. Thank you.
Councillor Byrne?
I too would like to thank Councillor Chapman for putting this motion forward. I know that in some of our satellite communities and smaller townships, the only access that some of our ageing community have to hospitals and to doctors and to any sort of shopping centres and things is on the bus service, and the bus service, well, it doesn't exist at all. The only way that these people can get to town is if they go on the school bus in the morning and they come home on the school bus in the afternoon. And then when they get to town, there is absolutely limited, if any, connections to their appointments and things like that. So I thank Councillor Chapman for putting this forward, and 100% agree that we need to get our community connected. We've got an ageing population and we're just miles behind on this. So thank you very much for that. I'll be supporting this motion.
Councillor Whelan?
Yeah, I'll speak in favour of this also. I know we're regional councillors, but I just want to point out some of the areas in my division that are completely isolated, which is pretty much all of it, besides a little part of Torquay. All of Urangan South, Baral, Ingenia Lifestyle Village, which is one of the biggest in the region, have no access to public transport. Commends Councillor Farage for mentioning the school having to put their own buses on, but that isn't covering everywhere, and I often talk to kids that go to some of the private schools or wherever they may go that can't access it. And I've even spoken to principals who said, look, we just can't stack it up to get a bus out to places like Riverheads. Riverheads isn't really just like our small towns. There's thousands and thousands of people that live out there and they've got no access to public transport, no pathway, no safe way besides a vehicle. So if you don't have a vehicle and you live in Riverheads, you are socially isolated. This is a livability thing. Like it may be appointments, as my colleague has said, or it might just be going to the beach for the day. It might just be going shopping. So, there's untapped people for local businesses to start servicing as well. So this is a huge, huge thing. It'll be massive to get it. It can get vehicles off the road. We have a lot of traffic issues now as well. So I 100% support Councillor Chapman's motion, and really look forward to a response as well.
Any further speakers? I just want to say, Wide Bay Transit, it's been around a long time, and they do what they can with the funding they get. And they have had some very innovative things. I think it's called On Demand now, but it used to be called Can Go for Pyalba and Point Vernon. And that's the kind of thing they're innovative, what they've done. If they could get funding to do that On Demand service, there's nowhere that would be better suited to that than, say, Riverheads, where you've got this large area at the end and then a long road to go into town. And it would pick people up at, say, at the different manufactured home parks at Ingenia. There are very viable options for Wide Bay Transit to replicate what they've had in Point Vernon and Pyalba now for decades, if they got the appropriate funding from state government.
I forgot to mention something that one of the complaints that I get around the airport is people arriving and no public transport services at all. So that's another key thing with the growth we have, especially in air visitation.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. The next item is 12.2, request for a report outlining the operational status of the Maryborough and Harvey Bay Aquatic Centres. This is moved Councillor Sanderson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Paul Truscott. Councillor Sanderson?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Happy to move the motion. I think, colleagues, the motion speaks for itself, but with the Mayor's permission, happy to speak to the reasoning for it.
You don't need my permission.
Okay, beautiful. Colleagues, as we know, these facilities, both the Maryborough and Harvey Bay, are important community facilities that provide recreational health, rehabilitation and social benefits to residents of all ages, including children, seniors and people with disabilities. In recent years, both facilities have operated under reduced opening days, with closures on certain weekdays and public holidays. These changes were initially communicated as temporary. However, the reduced operating arrangements have remained in place for an extensive period, probably a year and a half to date. So Council has continued to receive community feedback expressing concern about the ongoing impact of reduced operating days, including reduced access for regular users, disruptions with learn to swim programs, and limitations on community and sporting use. Comparisons have also been raised with neighbouring local government areas where aquatic facilities continue to operate 7 days per week. And while Council acknowledges the operational challenges associated with staffing, recruitment, training and broader financial pressures, there is limited publicly available information outlining the full context of the reduced operating days, the steps taken to address those challenges and the feasibility of returning both facilities to 7-day operations. So, Mr Mayor, colleagues, accordingly a detailed report is sought to provide Council with a clear understanding of the current operational status of both centres, the impacts on the community and the options available to restore full operating days where possible. So this motion seeks to have the questions the community are asking be answered and also seeking clarity to the clear direction of Council moving forward. So definitely happy to move this motion.
Any further speakers or questions? Councillor Farage.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to commend Councillor Sanderson for this motion, and I think it's very timely for us to try and achieve this body of work now as we head into the cooler months of the year to sort of hopefully be able to be better prepared for the warmer season towards the end of the year. And I think, yeah, like when we came into council in 2024, he's absolutely right. These were the pressures that we were facing. I commend the Aquatics team both in Hervey Bay and Maryborough for the work that they do. We've seen recent upgrades at both centres and, you know, there are so many people there all the time, every time I drive past and I go there. So there definitely is the demand and hopefully we can make some changes operationally and try and recruit some more staff so that we can return to the 7-day operations. But yeah, really timely. Hopefully we can get this done in sort of the off season through winter and be back in full force in summer.
Councillor Byrne.
Thank you. I'd also like to commend Councillor Daniel Sanderson for this report. Like at the end of the day, we've invested a vast amount of money in our aquatic facilities over the last couple of years and they're just not being used to their full potential. And I think that, yes, families want to be there, they want to use our facilities, but not only for the family side of it, but for therapy and rehabilitation. And we're just not allowing that. It is a public facility and I think that it is well overdue that we review these reasons for not being open. So thank you, Councillor Sanderson. I'll be supporting this motion.
Councillor Truscott.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just to reiterate comments already made, that I'm fully in support of this. I was thinking back to when, because we seem to have had this figure in our head of it's been about 1.5 years, possibly up to 2 years. I actually think it's been going on far longer, because I think it was during the COVID period that it actually started when everything was getting closed and therefore people had left, lifeguards had left and that sort of thing because there wasn't ability to be able to stay. And that, I think, started the global shortage of lifeguards. And because I remember doing promotional stuff at that time, trying to get lifeguards. We got to the point of going, we will give them the training and everything to get them on. And so it has been I think it's actually been several years since the problem first started. And yes, we do get people say, why can Childers have their pool open 7 days and we can't? Childers pool isn't as big as our facilities, but nonetheless, the sentiment is there. And I think that's something that we need to ask ourselves as councillors and as the whole organisation is, do we want our facility to be open 7 days? My answer is yes. So if that is the case, what do we need to do to achieve that? How do we achieve it? How do we do it in the most efficient way possible to serve the community? So I'm very happy to support this and hopefully get a good outcome and hopefully the process I won't be talking about this next term, hopefully.
Any further? Councillor Wheeland.
Yeah, just briefly, I just remembered back to, I can't remember which one, but one of our audit and risk meetings, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we were commended for the investment we were making into our pools. And the importance of having them open in Queensland climate throughout all of summer was something that was stated as well. So very supportive of Councillor Sanderson's work here, appreciate the work you've done, and I was full support.
Any further speakers or questions? With the motion, all in favour? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. The next item is item 13.1, which is an answer to a question of notice, pages 457 to 458. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Farage, is there a seconder? Councillor Whelan, any speakers or questions? Perhaps I'll just put a view and a question. This is kind of new, an answer to a question on notice. What we no longer have, though, is the report, which the question came from, the organisational performance report, which was a monthly report. And this indicator, which was one of the ones on it, is something that's of a primary concern for me, being interested in the safety and well-being of our staff. If this is no longer going to be presented to us on a monthly basis, how am I to access this number going forward?
Okay, sorry, through the chair.
Yeah.
There's a range of options that we are exploring and able to provide you access to the information. One is a quarterly workshop where we'll provide full information to councillors around all of the various indicators that we use in operating the organisation. The other is to include it within the quarterly operational, so the operational plan performance report that comes to council, which is on a quarterly basis. The intention is to have the performance metrics as a part of that report or an addendum to that report. It'll be once a quarter, not once a month. Once a month is problematic for the organisation to actually collate that data within a timely fashion for the monthly meeting as it stands.
Yeah, it just, the monthly organisational report provided a lot of really useful information. It's a way I'd find out that there was an environmentally significant reportable incident at the Tugum sewage treatment plant, or that there was a spike in lost time incidences the previous month. I'm hesitant to accept that it's a good idea not to have it every month.
It is problematic for us to collate that data in a timely fashion to be able to meet the timelines for when the monthly meeting is actually scheduled for.
Yeah.
If we were to, previously, there was always a late report that was put on the agenda to accommodate that timeframe. I am hesitant to continue that practice because it led to inefficient operations within the organisation. However, I hear what you're saying in terms of access to the data, and particularly things like environmentally relevant activities, etc. There are many options that we've got. One can be that we ensure that you get a briefing note or a report that is sent around when we have that data available, and then include that at a quarterly basis so that it lands on this as an official council report at a council meeting. We can go back to the previous arrangement, but as I said, it's not something that I am happy to support because it makes for a very inefficient operation, and it then has the issue where we have late reports that are landing on the agenda every single month, which I don't think is great.
Yeah. Does anyone else have a view on the matter?
My question is probably to the CEO. How often do we receive the audit and risk minutes? Because part of that information on safety is contained in the audit and risk report.
So we got the audit and risk from February here. Yeah.
There is a safety report in those minutes.
Yeah.
May not have the detail,
No.
perhaps, so maybe the combination of the audit and risk report minutes and a briefing note is more detail.
So I've got the minutes here. So I've got the minutes. So which item would it be? So it says cybersecurity update resolution. Stephen Coates, John Whelan carried unanimously. Notable incidents. Something was I don't think that doesn't replace it at all. The minutes merely have the mover and seconder.
It just notes that the information was tabled at the.
Yeah, that really wouldn't replace it in any kind of way.
So it doesn't get as much detail as we would like to see.
Well, I still don't even see it actually. I can get to it.
Through the chair, can I say, there is no intention for you not to have access to that information. What I'm trying to do is to be able to present it to you in a fashion that assists the organisation from a efficiency perspective and ensuring that you're getting the information in as timely a fashion as I can. But also, if you present it quarterly, you're seeing a trend analysis rather than the monthly snapshot. It'll give a greater level of information that you can have consideration for when you're obviously asking your questions and if you have any concerns about the operation itself. The briefing note option is just for immediate issues, for example, environmentally relevant issues that might crop up at any of our landfill stations, etc. Any other, if there was a major incident, for example, then it's something that I can be talking to you about so that you're aware at the time that that happens. The report itself is a lag indicator, and it's just giving you that insight into how the organisation is running it up to that point.
Yeah, and that's why I like it.
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm not saying I'm not giving it to you. I'm prepared to, we can do that for you. If we do it on a monthly basis, it is late.
yeah, and I accept that. I mean, it's just something that we've had every month for years. It covers a lot of really insightful, as you say, lag indicators of what's happening, including lost time incidents, which I find really important.
Yeah. So the quarterly report would still include all of that data for you.
Mr. Mayor, makes me think of the old El Paso ad, I think it is, where they say, "Por qué no los dos?" Why not both? Why is there a reason we couldn't have monthly and quarterly? Like, 'cause I agree with what the Mayor's saying here, or even if the monthly one was in a different fashion that is provided to councillors, perhaps not in the same format, but like the quarterly one be more formal and the monthly one be less formal, and then if councillors have anything, issues from that, they could bring up at a meeting, and then the quarterly one is, or... So there's still a way to get both?
Councillor Chapman?
Mr Mayor, I actually support this. I actually thank the CEO for bringing efficiencies, looking for efficiencies. We're here all the time saying we need more efficiencies, and if we can still get it monthly as a document.
Not at the moment.
No, but I said if we could get it it doesn't have to be something that the staff have to work on, and we can get it after the meeting, but every quarterly bring it up to a meeting so it's a document that's approved through a meeting. If the CEO, the CEO virtually runs the staffing side of the operation, and I'm sure if there was a major concern out there with a staffing issue or something like that, we hear it anyway. But I take my hat off for the CEO and any director that can find efficiencies, that they think that they can find efficiencies within the workforce, and even the workers. If a worker thinks that they can find an efficiency, go to your management, go to your directors and speak up, because that's what this community are really after, is to find how we can streamline things and make things better. Mr Mayor, I'm sure you could ask the CEO, that's your job, you can ask a question any time you like of having a look at this report, and the CEO can give it to you.
That's all fine. If you don't want to know the information, that's fine, Councillor Chapman. If you're not interested in getting a monthly update on the whole range of things that were in the organisation.
This is my opinion, Mr Mayor.
Last time incidents, which is one, but you shouldn't be suggesting that I'm not able to get that information, such as last time incidences.
I'm not saying, I just said, Mr Mayor, that you can ask whenever you like for it, and you can be given that information. But I just look at if it's an efficiency, is my opinion. If it's an efficiency, I think give it a trial and see how it goes.
All right. The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any further speaks or questions on it? I'll put the motion all in favour. Any speakers against? Any voters against? Go to general business. Is there any general business? Councillor Sanderson?
Mr Mayor, it's just in relation to the earlier part of the meeting, which I was going to wait until the end, in relation to item, the confirmation of minutes. In there, item 9.3 on page 7 said that Councillor Byrne and I moved the motion, but then voted against it. I don't think that is correct.
Where was that, Ken?
Yeah, page 7. Item 9.3 of page 7.
It's got the mover and the seconder voting against it.
That's right, I don't think that is correct.
We need to change the minutes.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Page 7.
Resolution, shall burn, against, shall burn.
Oh, they've moved and seconded it.
It's wrong. So the minutes are wrong. Their proposal, George, the proposal is to put this motion on the table. If the council is supportive, then we will amend the minutes accordingly. We should have done that when the minutes were being recorded.
Councillor Cosgrove?
If it assists, Mr Chair, my recollection is that this motion was 9-2.
Yeah.
I think it's just been misrecorded as to which two councillors voted against. Because I recall that it's correctly recorded the item above that, 9.1, that I voted against that. That's correct. And then I felt like I started a trend and councillors, because that's why I remember it, because I voted against the first motion. And then two councillors voted against, but I think what's happened is that two councillors have been incorrectly recorded as councillors Byrne and Sanderson, but were two other councillors.
So I did vote against it, but I can't remember.
I did vote against one of them. We can go back and have a look at the recording to determine exactly what the order you did vote against and for, and then correct the minutes.
Okay, so what do we do with, Ken, do you want to rescind the motion? It hasn't been acted upon, so we'll, Councillor, is it?
Yeah.
So Councillor Sanderson is moving that we rescind, motion number, 5.1?
5.1, yeah.
Yep. And then we'll bring it back next month with the correction.
Is there a seconder for that?
Yeah.
Councillor Truscott, so this is the rescission motion, which we can do because it has not yet been acted upon. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion all in favour. Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Any further general business?
Yeah,
Councillor Chapman?
I have one here, as page 22, going back through the meeting, Councillor Keith today delivered a petition from the Salvation Army for a car park. On page 22, there was also in June, no. In the open resolutions register, there's a
Yeah, that's why he said it was an updated one and that he was just tabling it. He didn't move that a report be provided, he moved that he table it, so it can be added to it.
Oh, that's what's happened. So I just thought, because this is not a double up from it, so it's just an update.
We'll just table it to go with that, yeah.
Thank you.
Any further general business? Any late items? If not, I'll close the meeting at 11:34. Thank you.